We ready?
Mm-hmm.
I think, did we lose anybody along the way?
Sarah went to the bathroom.
Okay. Okay. Good evening. This is the MSAD 51 School Board of Directors meeting on this Thursday, December 18th. I am thrilled to kick off our recognition with the Greeley football team state championship team. It's so great to have so many of you be able to join us tonight, and I'm going to welcome David Shapiro.
You don't miss a second here. Thanks for popping in right away. So welcome everybody, and thanks for taking the opportunity to hear about our football team. So I have just a quick note about our team as a whole here. I have a little three-part story about their remarkable journey. Remarkable journey part one. So year one, we started off having our own program after several years of not. And during that first year, we won 0 games. So that's year one. Year two, at one point, we played a handful of games, and at that point, we were 1-10 and during year two. So not an auspicious start in the win-loss record. But then, year two, after that 1-10 overall start, we played in a state championship game. Didn't win that one, but we played in it. Year three, they went full circle and played in the state championship game yet again and won that one. Year four, which is our current iteration, we not only changed from 8-player to 11-player and needed to learn a new system, new rules, etc. But during year four, they went undefeated and are our current state champions in Class C. So that's part one of our remarkable journey. Part two I need to recognize is our coaching staff. So research tells us that in the educational circles, it takes 3 to 5 years to become proficient in your craft as a teacher. You all probably know this. And those folks that are teachers, they go to school to be a teacher, they do a practicum to be a teacher, and they do it for 180 days a year during those 3 to 5 years to become proficient in their craft. Well, our coaching staff, in particular Coach King, has put that on its head. They've really done a remarkable job. I should tell you that Coach King, when we hired him, had 0 years of experience as a head coach. So for all we've been able to accomplish during that time, when what it really takes to be proficient in your craft is remarkable, what we've been able to do. So kudos to Coach King, who was the Coach of the Year this year for our football program. So yeah. Well done. And I'd say he and his staff are now the benchmark of what it means to be an exemplary coaching staff in the state of Maine. So good for them. So that's part two. And then part three is not only have we excelled on the scoreboard, clearly we did so, but more importantly, they are an exemplar of education-based athletics. So that we have a program that is welcoming to so many kids, and they really are a cohesive unit. And we have this many folks here after we have hockey going, we have basketball going, they got a million other things going, but they're still here to represent their team. That's outstanding, fellas. So thank you for showing up here today. But they really have a culture of success, and so much so that we have grown. So we had 40-plus players this year, which is more than we've ever had in the history of Greeley football. So, and it's a sport that's not for everybody, candidly. They work hard, and they only get to play 1 game a week. So kudos to you for creating that culture and being part of that culture that is a winning culture, and that allows 40-plus student athletes to reap the benefit of our education-based athletics program. So great job on that. And then the final piece that I want to add is the manner in which they do so. We play a violent game, and we have high school boys who are asked to play a game that is super physical and violent at times, and to do so with dignity and grace. So much so that not only were they state champions on the field by virtue of their success on the scoreboard, but they were also recognized as the Sportsmanship Award winners by their peers. That's all the teams that we beat up on all year, rated them as the best exemplars of sportsmanship. So they did it right way. Nice job. So you don't want to hear any more from me. I'm sure you'd like to hear from one of our student athletes about what their experience was like, and I think you anointed a couple of them. So introduce yourselves when you come up, fellas.
Hi, I'm Sean Justice. I was a senior captain this year for Greeley football.
We had a great season this year, from going defeated my freshman year to undefeated state champions this year, and it was really special. I wanted to say thank you to the school board for supporting the turf. I think it was a better experience this year because we had the turf field. Without support like this and getting our football program back, I believe that 40 of my friends and I would not have had a fall sport to play, so thank you.
Ben Kiles. I was also a senior captain for Greeley football. I want to start by thanking all my teammates for an unforgettable season. The bond our team had this year is something I wish every high school athlete could experience just once. Coming to practice was honestly my favorite part of the day. And nothing beat playing in front of my home crowd on Friday nights. And thanks to you guys, we were able to play 8 home games on our amazing new turf. Winning one state championship was something me and most kids dream about their whole lives, and to go on and win 2 in a row is truly a blessing. But none of this would have been possible without the coaches who pushed us every day and believed in us even when things got tough. This program gave me more than just championships. It gave me purpose, unforgettable moments, and people who I'll call family for the rest of my life. Thank you, guys.
I'll brag about this team a little bit. First, I want to just reiterate, I think these guys know it, but how proud us as coaches are and your community are of you guys. Like you said, it's kind of been a story. We started off rough for a lot of you, but you guys put in the work every day. In August, we had a team meeting where we sat down and we kind of defined our goals and who we wanted to be. And you guys remember me saying it all the time, is be who we say we are. So we wanted to be tougher than everybody else. We wanted to be relentless in our pursuit of greatness, and we wanted to be more disciplined than everybody else. And we did that week after week. We didn't hide from the fact that back in August we wanted to win a state championship. That was our big goal, but we broke it down smaller. We had to win every week. We had to have great practices every day. And day in and day out, these kids did the work. Football's a long season. It's 14 weeks from the start of preseason in August until November 22nd when we play the state championship game. And it's even longer for the guys that come to the optional summer workouts. So all the success is really their efforts, and hoisting a gold ball is kind of a great way to get paid for those efforts. I think, the seniors, especially Sean, BK, you guys, we were 0-7, but you guys didn't give up. I think there was 12 or 13 of you as freshmen. I think we finished with 8. So to go from 0-7 to finishing 11-0, we have a 20-game win streak, the longest in the state. And if you exclude those 7 games, we're 25-31. So a really big turnaround. But it's all because of these guys. They continue to work hard, and hopefully we'll be back here next December, or we will be. So.
We do hope to see you again, and I just want to again thank you for coming and sharing tonight your experience and how meaningful it is for us on the board who also have seen the vision of what a turf field could help do in support for this program, but more importantly, our student athlete leaders and our coaching staff. It's just been such a meaningful experience to bring football back to Greeley, and you really do make us proud. So thank you. Great. All right. You are welcome to stay for as long as you want, and you can see all of the exciting things that we do on the school board. Thank you. Yes, there's other games going on, right? Enjoy. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Yay.
Good job.
Well, this is another update that I really enjoy hearing about from our Greeley PTO and Foundation 51. So I'd like to welcome Tara Nelson and Lindsay Nato to the podium. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter than them, I guess. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I am Tara Nelson, and this is Lindsay Netto, and we are the current co-chairs of the Greeley PTO. Most of you are familiar with what we do, but our mission is to support the MSAD 51 school district by enriching the lives of students pre-K through 8. We do this by funding field trips, hosting guest speakers, author visits, and offering student-involved events throughout the year. Part of our mission is also to inform parents through our Parent University series and to create connections with parents, educators, and other members of the school community. We meet monthly from August to June, and we've had a busy year already. Not only are our board members parents and teachers, they are active members of our community and love to volunteer at our events and the school events like the book fairs and dances. Our events so far this year have included kindergarten coffee in September, followed by the hugely popular grandparent event at Mabel Wilson in October. And we've also had a number of fundraising events, including a new year-round Greeley gear store with a recent flash sale for the holidays, along with student events like the Mariners Takeover game, and as always, our Parent Power Appeal through the fall, which raised $14,000 this year. We're so excited to be part of the Greeley Craft Fair this year for the first time, and we took over the concessions, and we also provided free face painting for the kids, which they loved. We have been able to fund playground equipment for both MIW and GMS, and this year we were super excited to provide a Gaga Ball court for the middle school. It was positively received by the staff and the students. We had a lot of good feedback from our own kids and just on social, and everyone just was really excited about it. We're also looking forward to talking with Corey and Mallory and MIW about providing one for them once the school construction is complete.
Upcoming fundraisers and events include a readathon at both the schools, GMS new this year, and a spring Greeley gear sale along with a booth at the craft fair. We also look forward to hosting events like trivia night, bingo night, a sledding day, in addition to Filibus Filibelli and staff appreciation events in the spring. There are a number of field trips we've already funded this year, including a trip to Maine Wildlife Park and a presentation from Sparks Arc for the 3rd graders, the Cromwell Center visit for the 4th and 5th graders, and the very popular 5th grade Boston trip. We look forward to providing future support with ACES Day t-shirts, field day equipment, and volunteers, while also helping with the school dances for 6th through 8 and other field trips for other grades this spring. That's a pretty quick glimpse of what we're up to. We always welcome questions, suggestions, recommendations. We truly love what we do in collaboration with the school community, appreciate the supportive relationships with the district and our community partners. Thank you for having us.
Great, thank you. And you do so much to enhance and support not only our kids' experience, but certainly the teachers, and I so appreciate it. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Great. I'm going to move to approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our December 4th, 2025 meeting as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Annika. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Great, it's unanimous. All right, we welcome public comment. Do we have? we have one individual here for public comment. We follow policy BDH for public comment. We have a 3-minute timer that we have for public comment, and I just ask that all your comments are addressed to me as the chair. And if you hear the buzzer go off or see the time go out, just please work to wrap up your comments. Thank you.
All right. My name is Linda Googans. I live in North Yarmouth. And I'm here regarding the lack of the ESP contracts. It is quite disturbing to the town residents that this is happening again. These employees deserve more respect. My feeling is that there are 2 types of employees: those that do just enough to squeak by and those that go above and beyond. If you find an employee that does an exceptional job, you should pay them what it takes to keep them. I myself worked as a recess lunch aide here for 3 years. I left that position 2 years ago. My rate of pay for all 3 years was $15 an hour, no raise for all 3 years. Not much incentives to stay. I'm currently the director of the aftercare program at Greeley Middle School. My job is a lot like theirs. As many as 10 different children with 10 different personalities and 10 different issues come up to me all at once. Each of them feel that their situation is imperative. As it is with the school employees, it is challenging, but it is also rewarding to build relationships with these kids. The difference is I do feel appreciated by my employer, the town of Cumberland, and I'm well compensated for my position. I wish these folks who have devoted 10, 20, 30 or more years to the schools could feel the same way. These people comfort your children, when they're hurt, scared, sad, or sick. They're loving, kind, compassionate, nurturing, patient, and calm in very difficult situations. To make them beg for a fair wage is shameful. My mom, Judy Maddox, taught 2nd grade in this school system for 35 years. I remember her coming home completely drained. But she recalls her students would often mistakenly call her mom. That is how close these children get to the adults in the schools. It's priceless. I've been thinking of one particular employee here who is going through a very difficult time personally. This person is bombarded by kids, one after another, all day long. This person always has a smile for all of them, always. I want this person and all of them to feel appreciated. I am sure most of you have had birthday parties for your kids. They invite all their friends, it's loud, it's chaotic, and when it's over, you're like, phew, that was insane. That is actually what the environment that these people work at every day. I also bet the majority of you have spent $150, maybe $200 on a meal at a restaurant for your family recently. I doubt many of these workers can do that, despite having college degrees, just like you. I suspect there is one major player in this, who's not here tonight, that can resolve this problem quite quickly. Please do the right thing, and next go around, I hope it's done on time. Thank you. And I also want to thank you all for your volunteer work.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you looking at me, because the North Yarmouth Select Board does not do that. They ignore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you being here this evening. And yeah, I mean, you're welcome to stay. Right. Okay. All right. Now we are going to move on to presentations. And Jeff or Superintendent Porter, has the 2024-25 annual report.
Yes, good evening. I do have it. It should be up on the screen soon, hopefully.
I'm so not trained yet to look this way.
Unless I did not, I might not have mirror screened it. Let me just mirror screen that again. There we go. All right, this is the annual report you've all been waiting for, 2024-25. So the annual report, as you know, we go back a year because we have all the statistics and information from the prior year. And this time of year, I come to you and present that information, and it becomes part of a public document. It's put on our website, and it'll replace the or will become part of the record of the annual report on the website. So I'll start with a preface. School and school districts are complicated. They're not easy organizations to understand internally or externally. And that's because we have a lot of human beings that are part of our organization, and that's what makes it complex and at the same time wonderful. No one data source will tell the story or predict the overall health of this organization. So looking at one particular data point isn't it, obviously, but looking at things comprehensively is obviously important. Healthy district relies on multiple indicators for determining student success, and this is just one snapshot of the district. You'll notice that we've added in this year 2 years going back. You can also go back and look at our annual reports and go back 10 years and look at data or more. Data points that provide more detail about the accomplishments and challenges facing the district, its students, and its staff. And this is also a good way of looking at trending over a period of time and seeing how we're doing in certain areas. So we'll just start with some numbers. This is demographic information. This is not comparative at this point. I've done that enrollment report for you. But right now we have 2,234 students in our district, 444 faculty and staff, regular faculty and staff, 2,742 parents and guardians. I'm always asked, what's that number mean? Wouldn't you double the number of students you have? No, because some of you have many kids in the district, and that's why there's not as many parents, because you have so many. Some have more than others. 4 schools, 3 buildings. That will be soon 4 buildings. It's 3.2 buildings right now with the foundation. 2 towns, 1 campus, and of course, the one and only Ranger Nation. So our staff, an upgrade we made this year is to actually put the percentages, actually I believe that came from the board chair, is to make sure that those percentages were seen so you can hover, and when you have this report, and I think it's in your packet at this point and also on the website, you'll be able to hover and see the percentage in each staff group that we employ in the district. So you can see obviously the lion's share of our district is our instructional staff in the district, and right now I'm having a little trouble bringing that up. With the percentages, 75.8% of our total staff works as instructional staff, whether teachers, specialists, ed techs, and then the percentages go from there, and you can kind of hover above that and look at those percentages as you go. Also, our staff is have many degrees, and 231 of our total staff have a master's degree or higher. Bachelor's degree, 115, 12 have a doctorate, and 4 have a CAS, or Certificate of Advanced Study, which is between a doctorate and a master's degree. So well-educated staff members in our district, and these are just a few of the photos of our staff in our schools and enjoying themselves. So student data. These numbers are really important to look at over time, and you've got 2 years of data now. We have a lot more than 2 years, but we've just wanted to put 2 years in front of you so you can compare very quickly those data points. 50% of our students at the high school are taking at least one AP or IB course, and that's up over the last 2 years, where we had in the 45 and 42%. So that's good news. That's always a number we want to see trending up. Students are taking advantage of taking more rigorous courses at the high school. And then enrollment in 3 or more AP and IB courses is at 16%. Again, that number is up from 14% last year and 13% the year before. So again, we're looking at those numbers going up, and it's very positive development. And actually, post-pandemic, we've seen these numbers generally go up as students are taking more rigorous courses. 95% of our students were taking some sort of, or going to some sort of post-secondary enrollment, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, and that's up quite a bit from the year before, and 85% and 89% the year before that. That's very specific to a cohort, and that's a senior class each year that we look at that percentage, of course, attending post-secondary enrollment. And then our graduation rate is held steady for the most part, 97%, and that's 97% last year and 99% the year before. That generally does not tell all the story. We get closer to 100% over the 3 months after graduation, but this is the number that we use for the June graduation. As students graduate, that number can go up, and the state has allowed that number to go up over a period of time now. That was a change in law. AP exams that have a score of 3 or more, 3 is a passing exam, is 87%, so that's way up over the previous 2 years. And then IB exams, pretty much more or less steady, 77% of students passing with a 4 or more. That's a little bit down from the year before, 80% and 85% the year before that. Marie Trebilcock, a few weeks ago, presented this information, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about math, reading, and science, just to show you that it is part of the annual report, and this is a percentage at or above grade level standard. She did present that in detail. So this is just a summary as part of our annual report. And again, I will not go through that again. Same thing with iReady. She provided that information as well in more detail. So you can see how that compares. We've put the previous 2 years on this page, so it's easy to read and to quickly look at for people in the public that would like to know. But again, I'm not going to go through this again, but just to let you know, it's in the annual report. Enrollment, daily average attendance or average daily attendance is 95%. We've been working on making sure students are at school. You'll see principals putting messages out constantly that it's been one of our goals, strategic goals. That was approved by the board earlier this year. So we're holding steady at 95%. It was 95% last year, and then it was 94% the year before. So it's just a goal we want to continue seeing. Obviously, our chronic absenteeism rates are a different number, and we continue to work on decreasing the amount of students, and we've made headway in that area as well. And then looking at race and legal gender in our district, we have those numbers as well. I've given you the enrollment report. Again, this is just summary. This is some additional information looking at homeschooling, alternative education, the number of students that are attending paths, students that are involved in pathways, projects, private and charter schools. Again, I gave you this information as part of the enrollment report, so I won't go through this in a lot of detail. Superintendent agreements in and out. But again, we put all this information in one place for you as part of the annual report and for the public. So these are student service data points. This is not stuff that we have presented except usually during the annual report, so I'll go through this a little bit more in detail. 75% of our students are participating in athletics, and that's at the high school and middle school level. And that's up, which is a good sign. We've been seeing a steady increase since the pandemic with students participating in athletics, which is great to see. And that's at least one athletic season. So if a student participates in 2 or 3, we don't count them again. We just count them once if they've participated. Special education services, we're at 13.5%. That's just a little bit higher than the year before, and it's about 1% higher than 2 years ago for students who are identified. Restraints and seclusions, we have 64 restraints and seclusions last year, which is up quite a bit from the prior year at 29. That shouldn't be 32%. That's actually 32. There shouldn't be a 30% sign there. And the reason that number is up is it's the total number of restraints and seclusions. It doesn't mean that there's been that many students that have received a restraint and seclusion. So some students in that number might have received multiple restraints and seclusions, and that's why that number is up. Section 504, academic and medical, hasn't really changed much in the last year. 8% of our students are identified. That's just a little bit below last year, and it was 8.9% 2 years ago. Number of students who are truant, and that's a state definition. We have to follow a state protocol on truancy. Number of days that a student is missing in a certain period of time, it's at 0.2%.
Is that typically below 90%?
What's that?
Is that typically below 90% for truancy? If you had an 89% attendance rate, that would be, you're probably truant,
yes,
right? You've missed
you're
more
right.
than 10% of days of school, probably, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So 0.2% of our students are considered truant, and that's, again, we're making some progress in that area, just incrementally over the last 2 years. And again, as we get away from the pandemic, some of these numbers do improve. Number of students who were suspended last year, 27. That is up from the previous 2 years. And again, sometimes we have students that are suspended multiple times in a year, and I believe that is the case in this particular number as well. And then risk assessments. So this is a number that's slightly up from the year before and certainly up from 2 years ago. Part of it, I think, is that we're doing a better job identifying students that might need a risk assessment and making sure that they are getting those risk assessments. We have a risk assessment coordinator for the district, and that certainly helps in communicating with the social workers and the counselors and making sure that if a student needs a risk assessment, that is being handled, and even if there's a question mark, it is being handled.
And do you know, Jeff, is that this similar where there might have been a student who's had more than one risk assessment?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Yep, students can have multiple risk assessments. So that would, it's not just the students, it's the actual number that
Right.
we've conducted. So there are students that have multiple risk assessments done in 1 year. So going back a year, and just a reminder, these were things that happened in 2024-25 that were strategic priorities. Those were approved by the board, and I do provide those reports 3 times a year to you. Portrait of a Learner was a big activity last year. The One Campus Design, obviously, in the building committee, huge activity in 24-25. The SRRF project at MIW that was completed for windows and doors. The cybersecurity plan, upgrading all of the school level emergency plans to align with our district emergency plan. Vertical articulation of math pre-K to 12. Mari Trebelcock worked on that with a group of teachers. As you know, the pilot of the literacy programs last year led to the adoption of the CKLA program for K through 5 this year. Chronic absenteeism, which continues to be a goal this year. And then supporting staff plan, which had been in place for about 3 years prior as well. The annual stakeholder surveys, again, this was from last year. You've already received a report on this, so I won't go into a lot of detail on this. So a lot of this, the annual report is summarizing information that you've received in other reports and that we've put out publicly in other reports, but we're just putting it in one place for you and for the public so they can go and every year look at this information. And by the way, we start those stakeholder surveys. I know everyone loves surveys. We start those all over again. We start the cycle in January with all 3 of our stakeholder surveys, students, staff, and parents. We'll be putting that out starting in January and into February. And then again, this was last year's budget. Again, I won't go through this as you've had umpteen budget reports and presentations, but it is your summary. So this is what you've probably all been waiting for. There's the year in review. In case you couldn't read as quickly as we wanted you to there, this video will be on our website, and you can watch it 100 times if you want to. And again, there's many ways to connect with us. There's many ways that we communicate out. These are all the ways that we do that, and hopefully we reach people in some way as we're communicating. This photo on this page is actually at the top when Eric Brown was notified that he I believe he was either we hadn't notified him that he was actually Employee of the Year. He was one of the finalists. But it was an impromptu, it was a great experience. There was a bunch of kids walking down the hall, and they were like, "What's going on around here?" And we were like, "Do you want to be in on this opportunity, this kind of photo op?" And they were like, "Yes, we do." And so they kind of, it was just a very impromptu moment. It was
Any
really neat.
opportunity to do rabbit ears.
What's that?
Any opportunity to do rabbit ears.
Oh, rabbit ears is always, this is middle school. We're in a middle school here. You have to do that. It's required. And then just a reminder that we do have, and this has been updated now for this report, we do have a data dashboard. And this, all this data has been, as I mentioned, has been completely updated for the 24-25 school year now that we've got all the information. You can click on any of the tabs and go to this information, whether it's enrollment, budget, academics, staff data, and student services data. So it doesn't matter what tab you go to, there's graphs. You can look in more detail at the data. And a big thank you to Melissa Porter for keeping all of this stuff current and making sure so the information that you just saw in some of the report, you also see mirrored here, plus a lot more detail. So that's something that we continue to offer to the community if they want to know more about the district. So, and that is the annual report.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really a summary.
Kudos to Melissa, and I know she was even doing things when she was out sick. So
She was. Yeah.
I have just a couple quick questions. I don't know if others do. On the other enrollment data slide, the pathways program, I noticed that the numbers there were down quite a bit. And do you have some context to why that?
Well, we've had switches in teachers, and different focus areas were, the specialist, who was our pathway specialist, and different focus areas for that person and what they're doing. Okay. So this was a big, focus of the person that was in the position before the prior year. And this has been something that changed over the year. Okay. And so we have a new specialist who has different areas of interest. So we are kind of digging into this data and how we present this information and how we can present it in the future. I did ask that question, with any numbers that were discrepant.
And for those who aren't aware, and I only am now because I do have kids of high school age, can you just, and it's because it's a little confusing, we have the paths and when we have the pathways, and can you just maybe give a little bit of a overview of?
So PATHS is Portland Arts and Technology High School, and that's the number of students, 17 students that last year attended PATHS.
And they go there daily?
They go there for half a day.
For half a day.
Yeah, so they go there in the morning, they come back for the afternoon at the high school, and they enroll in a program. They're accepted into a program at PATHS, and there's a variety of programs. Actually, our entire high school staff will be going to PATHS in February during the staff day and learning more about the programs that are offered at PATHS and understanding where our students are going for half their day that attend that program. We've also had a couple students, not last year, but we've had students in the past that attend the Westbrook Regional Vocational Center as well for programs that they offer that PATHS doesn't. So Pathways is our internal program. So it's at our high school. We have a specialist. Students can get credit for an independent project or something that they're interested in. And we work with the department. The specialist works with the department to make sure they can get credit for studying something independently and doing an independent project. Mm-hmm. And that's completely within our high school. Okay. So that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, and I probably remember hearing more about it when the numbers were a bit higher. It was quite a few kids participating and having opportunities.
Right. There was a symposium for a couple of years. So there's just a different focus right now with Pathways, and we'll provide more information on that if you'd like.
Yeah, do you know if the numbers are higher again this year? And
well, we look at it from 2 different semesters, so I couldn't give you those numbers yet because we haven't had the second semester. Students take that usually for a semester. They don't take it for the whole year.
Okay. Monica?
Well, I had the same question as you about pathways, so I would definitely say yes if we can get more information about that at some point when it's available.
Happy to do
would
that.
be Great. My other question was around the restraints and seclusions and suspensions, and just wondering, are there actions that an increase in numbers in those areas would lead to in terms of looking at how we can reduce those?
Yeah,
And that
when
might be another conversation. That's
Yeah,
another
when I
kind
looked
of
at, into that again, it was specific, there were specific students where there was just multiple occasions of that, where a student had a suspension. We try also to do in-school suspension as much as possible. So a lot of
in-school suspensions. These are both
yes,
school and
any
school.
sort of suspension, in-school or out-of-school suspension is counted in this number.
Okay.
So the vast majority, we really try very hard not to do out-of-school suspension. Most of the suspensions that I see, and I get a copy of all the suspension reports, are in-school suspension.
Sure, yeah, and I understand that certainly just like 1 year wouldn't necessarily lead to
Right.
an action plan, but if that was something that we were seeing as a pattern over time that we would want to
Right.
look at. Okay.
And do you know if it's middle school or high school, or is it a mix of both?
For suspensions, it's both schools, so it's a mix of both. I just want to double check that.
It says 6 to 12. I was
Yeah,
just,
it's
I
6
guess,
to
I guess
12.
the pattern,
Yep.
I was wondering if it was.
Definitely more high school. I mean, high school is where you're going to get more suspensions. So it's definitely more high school.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Those were my questions.
Good. We covered it.
Okay. I can get you some more information on pathways. I know that number
Yeah.
looks a little different.
Are we welcome to tag along to that day in February to Paths?
What's that?
Are we welcome to tag along to that day in Paths?
I would have to check on that because right now it's for staff only that I know of, but I can ask the question if you like.
Or maybe we get our own day. I don't know.
I can ask the question, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With regard to superintendent agreements in versus out, do you take into consideration to try to balance the numbers, or is each case its own?
Each case is its own because state law says that it has to be in the best interest of the student.
Okay.
So that's the parameter that both superintendents have to operate under.
Okay. Okay.
You know, what makes sense for the student. So it's certainly, I don't look at numbers when I'm looking at those.
Okay.
The only time I look at a number would be, do we have room in our classes? So if we have, especially at Mabel I. Wilson, you know, for a long time, there's a lot of no's that I've had to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that because we don't have space.
Yeah.
The high school, we probably said no several times this year because there were a couple staff reductions and our enrollment went up more than we expected. So some of our class sizes were larger. And so I always work with the principal on that, and we look at our sections and our class sizes.
And
So it's really student by student, but it also has to do with, do we have space? Can we
Right.
do it?
And can you remind us how the funding works with that?
It's runs through the EPS formula. It's based on a student. So if a student goes out of our district, the funding goes with the student to the new district. Same thing in reverse.
So even though we're bringing in more than we're taking out,
We
the
count them
funding
as
balance.
we count
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we count them as our student. We get funding for them. Yeah.
And once we take a student, say, in whatever grade, is it just the expectation that we're going to?
Yes.
Okay.
For
That's
the most part, unless there's a problem.
Yeah.
I can only count 3 or 4 times that I can think of over the years where I've had to say to a parent, this isn't working, and I'm sorry, your child's not going to be able to come back next year.
Okay. That's kind
Yeah.
of what I figured. Okay.
But generally, when you accept a student, that's it.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Other questions?
First, I want to say again, kudos to Melissa Porter. This is really well laid out and like clean and easy to see. And then also kudos to you, Jeff, for the post-secondary culture you've created. I feel like we're in a time where going to college is much more difficult and a little bit like, you know, people put a lot of thought towards it, but to see the increases in AP and your post-secondary enrollment, that's really impressive. That's really awesome. I think my question is around some of the data around suspensions, truancy, the restraints, risk stuff. I think I'm curious about how that, if you've seen that, how that breaks down by grade level. So for example, truancy, and I think it's very common for K through like 8 to have high attendance rates and low truancy, but then high school is really where you start seeing that. So if we were to look at truancy or suspensions, like I've heard more behavioral issues in the middle school. Have you looked at this by building, and can you, if so, can you tell us a little bit about like, are these aggregate numbers on par with like how each building breaks down, or would you say, nah, there's pretty disparate numbers in, let's say, the high school versus middle school?
It is really across the board. I can't say there's any one building.
Okay.
At the high school, obviously, I mean, the truancy numbers is quite low.
Yep.
But at the high school level, there are students that make their own decisions. Obviously, they're old enough to make their own decisions. And so we try to help them. Is there something else you want to do if they get to that place? We don't have a lot of students in that spot. Some districts, we're talking about large numbers of students that are making different choices about what they want to do. But with truancy, it's usually because a student is not wanting to be here at the high school level. It's not for other reasons. At the lower grades, obviously, there might be more to it. It might be a parent or a home situation where the student isn't able to get to school, and that's why they're truant.
Right.
But at the high school level, they're making a decision. I think our counselors do a great job when they pick up on a student that is in that spot. Are there other things that we can do to help you graduate and be at school and those kind of pieces? Sometimes a student will have a disability where we have several, where coming to school is just really difficult for them. It's an anxiety-producing environment, no matter what we do. So we try our best to try to see if we can work with that student to get them to come to school.
It's really low, and if you look at your other attendance, it's also pretty good. And you said that that's been a core focus for a while.
Making sure students are here. Yep.
Do you think that'll be a core focus next year? Obviously, we want kids to be here, but it's like, are we gonna, okay, that what we've done is working. Now let's move towards, let's say, some of the behavioral issues that we have and stuff.
I think, I'm not sure if, we've talked about this as a leadership team, do we need to keep working on something, but we're also worried that if we stop focusing on it, that we're gonna start seeing those truancy and chronic absenteeism numbers go back up, and we're making improvements, so we wanna keep, that's why we've decided that we wanted to keep pace with that this year and make sure that we weren't just dropping that. I will say that when the board supported a second AP at the high school, I saw a real dramatic change because they are on top of attendance in ways that they were not able to do before. Both assistant principals are able to stay on top of those attendance rates. They're assigned to different classes. And when kids are out, they're following up. They're working with the counselors and social workers to follow up, making sure that the kids aren't just out for long periods of time and no one's noticing. So that second AP at the high school has made a big difference.
And Marie has spoken about how attendance is still very a top priority for her. I can't remember if she did it at a meeting or if this is just in our equity committee. But yeah, if you have any questions about attendance, Marie is on top of that.
Yep. And that's a leadership goal, and certainly for the whole leadership team, it's a strategic goal that we've been working on. But Mari's very involved in that.
I'm just really happy you didn't report tardies because.
What's that?
I'm happy tardies aren't reported because I would probably walk out in shame.
I will say that tardies, but that's an area that's interesting that you say that because a couple of years ago, and again, I don't want to talk about just the high school, but when we went back to 7:50 in the morning to start, we noticed that the line of kids that were tardy had increased a lot. And kids were actually, I actually was in a meeting where kids said, they were giving us feedback like that's part of the reason we're tardy. So we have made a concerted effort. I think the administration made a really concerted effort at the high school to start working on tardiness now. So now they've worked on this. Now let's work on tardiness. And the tardiness numbers have dropped a little bit.
Do you see that, Katie?
It's better than that big line that was at the office.
Well, it took a couple of years to get used to it. Yeah.
Not saying that is that you, but
I can't. I was late today. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
We took a picture of that.
So, that's in the superintendent's report. But I think people are generally on time. I don't see kids really coming into my classes late. My first period classes, not really. Yeah.
Great. Other questions? Awesome.
Great.
Thank you. Well, I say thank you. You're up next too. Superintendent's report.
You can just say ditto.
Yeah.
All right, December 18th edition of the Superintendent's Report. Mabel I. Wilson School Reading Buddies, Mr. Stevens and Ms. Solberg's classes teamed up and read to each other. So these are second graders reading with kindergartners, and they do that every week. And they keep the same buddies for the year. It really cultivates strong connections within the school. Positive role models is, again, just part of the culture building, and it brings the school community together. So that's just a snapshot of the kids involved in that. Greeley Middle School 4-5, this is part of our new literacy program, CKLA, which combines science and social studies, really, I think, brilliantly into the literacy program. And so this is just another topic. I think I brought this to you a few weeks ago. There was a topic of interest. This is another one that's high interest, castles. So fourth graders are learning about medieval castles and medieval times as part of CKLA, and then designing and painting the castles in art class to go along with that. So that correlation with the allied arts. So it's really, I've been in a few classrooms now where CKLA is being taught, and I think that connection to social studies and science, which often gets lost at the elementary school level, is really, it's very high interest stuff. It's really interesting. There's one class I was in that was talking all about snakes. I'm like, ugh. But, you know, kids were fascinated. They loved it. Peer mentoring, fifth grade scientists learning from seventh grade scientists. Again, connections between students that are older and younger in the academic program. Open mic at GMS. Mrs. Goodwin, Bobby Goodwin, who is one of the counselors at the middle school, has hosted open mics at GMS where kids can say something, perform, sing, whatever you want to do. I think Dr. Selby has taken his guitar and performed in front of the kids as well. And then kids stand there and just kind of listen and hang out and watch each other perform. Spirit Week at GMS 6-8. You can see the staff gets into it sometimes more than the kids. And I love the hairdo on the young student there. That's a great Spirit Week. Movember, shout out to Coben Donnelly. Actually, Coben was here last meeting as part of the Guinea Reeds drumming, who was the winner of the November Men's Mental Health Awareness Month Movember Challenge. And I don't know, Katie, what initiative, where did this come from? Because I know this is...
It's Kyle Cares. It's definitely through Kyle Cares, and it's to just raise awareness for men's mental health. I'm growing a mustache to show it off, and awesome. I know some teachers were included in that too.
Great.
Then
Double
there's
hit.
some students who can't grow a mustache.
Yeah, I know.
Try.
They try real hard.
Keep trying. Doubleheader Tuesday night, just basketball, just highlights. 'Tis the concert season. There's actually, I think the high school had 3 concerts last week alone. This was the high school choral concert conducted by Sarah Bailey, and the Madrigals had a concert, and there was a jazz band concert, I think, last week as well as concerts at the other schools. And over the Thanksgiving week, Kim McDonald, who's a French teacher at the high school, also the IB coordinator at the high school, she took 19 students with her to France. She just decided, hey, let's go to France one day. Confluence, I think I'm saying that right, France, and they had a wonderful time over there. And then I believe it's February or March, there'll be a return trip. So students from France will be coming to Greeley High School and spending a week here, which is exciting. One campus project. There's actually been a lot of activity, not that there hasn't been since the beginning, but things are really starting to shape up. In fact, today was one of the largest concrete pourings at the new pre-K 1 school, I think, since the project has started. So a lot of the foundation is really starting to come into fruition. And in January, mid-January to late January, we'll start seeing iron and steel going up at the pre-K 1 school, even though the foundation won't quite be done by then. They'll be starting on the areas that are done. At the Mabel I. Wilson School, if you've driven by it, you'll see that actually these pictures are dated. The framing, the exterior walls are being framed, and that's now on the second floor. That's been completed. So they'll be now enclosing those walls in. And the maintenance building will start, we received our occupancy permit for the new maintenance building today by the town of Cumberland. Thank you. Bill Longley, who issued that. We appreciate it. And the maintenance department's been moving in all week, slowly. It's not completely done. There's still some things that need to be completed on that building. They'll be done in the next few days, hopefully. But at least we can really start moving into that building and get done. The abatement of the current building will start on January 5th. It will take a month. And after it is abated, we have Great Falls is developing a plan that they'll share with us as to demolishing the building after that. So that's kind of the timeline. I expect that to happen probably in February sometime. And don't forget, this is a big don't forget, we'll have this in the newsletter on the 5th. Please don't forget full day of school on Wednesday the 7th, even though it's kind of out of sequence for what we normally do. But if you recall, the calendar was approved that way. So we just want to make sure everyone is reminded it is a full day on the 7th, not a half day. I just want to say, felt remiss if I didn't say this, please keep your thoughts with the families and school communities of the 2 children who lost their life in the last month in Rockland and in Bonnie Eagle. So Braden Callahan and Simon Gonzalez. And happy holidays to everyone. That's my report.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll move to committee reports, and we'll start it off with Katie.
Hi, guys. Okay. So, I'm riding solo today. Sad. Caitlin's in Hawaii. Whatever. First of all, huge congrats to the football team again. I think that they have a really big impact at Greeley, and sometimes you don't even realize that until a season's over, and then you look back and you realize wow, that team was not only super successful, and watching them play was a constant community building activity, but they were also really inclusive, and that's really important, especially to see really cool and interesting and popular football guys being super inclusive and kind to literally everyone that they encounter. And I think that's just a great role model for all ages. So that's super cool. They kill it. Also, at the high school, I was also going to talk about the France trip, because as students are coming back, we just every single time that they do a France trip like this, the kids come back and they have the most awesome stories about their experiences there, and they're just really grateful for the opportunity to go. And because some people never get to go to Europe and go and see that type of thing, and they're really grateful that they get to in their high school experience. I think that's really important, and they think so. They think so too. So we get to see some really cool pictures and hear cool stories too. Also, and I'm excited to meet the French students when they come too in March. We have enrichment tomorrow. That's exciting. It's an extended advisory schedule. So our class periods are a little bit shorter, and then we have a larger advisory block. And during that time, you can do a number of activities that you sign up for through the same system that we would use to sign up for Ranger support time. But a bunch of different activities are offered, and I'm doing yoga tomorrow. So that's super exciting. And it's Christmas themed or holiday themed. So I'm excited about that. And I love enrichment. I think it's a really great addition to our schedule. Also, college hearbacks are coming back, which is so exciting. And I swear every day I open up my phone and there's a new commitment. And Caitlin's one and only request in her absence is that I shout out Ethan, who's hiding back there because he got into Northeastern.
That's awesome.
And that's awesome. It's a really great school, and I know that a lot of people are super proud and impressed. So yeah, that's all I have. But I think it's going to be a lovely transition into the holiday season, and kids are already getting excited for their large break.
Yeah, right? Longest
7 years.
Longest you've ever had, right? Coming off I think the longest summer break too.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so enjoy it. All right, Kim, finance.
Okay, we had a meeting last Friday we spent a huge bulk of it talking about the budget not only for fiscal year 26-27, which, just to keep it short, I'll say fiscal year 27, but also fiscal year 28, because that is when the new primary school will be open. And so we are looking at how to spread it out a little bit so that we're not adding too much next year, but also not creating a huge increase in 28 when we have more staff, more utilities, things like that. So we've spent a lot of time looking at particularly staff positions and when they will be needed, and how to think that through. We also got an update from Scott on our bonding for the One Campus project, and the the second ban is now online. It came in at our projected rate of 4% interest. Some of that conversation was also around how we use our fund balance, how we get a fund balance, where that money comes from, but also the importance of keeping a reasonably sizable fund balance, which is a very, very tricky line to walk, because that means it's money that was budgeted for that didn't end up getting used. So, for example, if a staff member, if we have budgeted for their entire family to be on health insurance, or to receive health insurance benefits, and then it's just that staff member that ends up taking it, that is money that we over budgeted for health insurance. And so those sorts of funds that are impossible to predict when we vote on the budget in the spring, those sorts of funds are where our fund balance begins to grow. And the state is changing their formula, so they are expecting a larger fund balance, or maybe not expecting, but allowing, certainly, and perhaps encouraging. And so that will be something that we have asked Jesse to look into, whether or not we need to adopt policy regarding fund balance, because it does affect our bond rating, which is still very, very high, but our fund balance is being used for the One Campus project, and so we're going to want to look at how to boost that without boosting the budget. So that's fun. And then we are looking at scheduling an additional meeting, because we feel that as a finance committee, we want to come to our pre-K workshop with some very specific budget-related questions regarding pre-K. And we realize that that's probably its own separate meeting. We weren't able to give it the time that we wanted to, so we're looking at adding a meeting to our schedule just to focus on how we want to approach the conversation around a pre-K. That's it.
Thanks, Kim. All right, Jesse, policy.
All right, policy. We met on Monday. We have a new policy for first read, but first we also discussed the naming of the new school. So we got the tabulation results in. I don't know, Megan, if you want to share those, or do you want me to share those?
I would love to share them.
All right, Megan's going to share the results, and I'll talk about what policy did with it.
We can do like a combined communications and policy.
Should we do like a drum roll?
All right. The votes are in, and these are all the votes that were received electronically and at Mabel I. Wilson, which had an in-person vote. The entire school, all the students voted during library in little voting booths in the library, got stickers. So the most votes cast were for Carolyn F. Small, the small school, at 973 total. Greeley Primary came in second with 539, but importantly, that was the clear winner from Mabel I. Wilson, with 380 Mabel I. Wilson kids voting for Greeley Primary. So it's an interesting setup. Cornerstone Elementary. For a grand total of 919, Cornerstone Elementary was third with 511 votes, and Broadmoor was fourth, 375 total. Total votes, 2778.
So with that knowledge policy, we talked about the foreign names, and I think where we ended was we thought the two names with the highest totals, Carroll F. Small, the small school, and Greeley Primary School would be the ones we would recommend to move forward for the board to consider. And we also talked about the idea that it would be worthwhile to have some sort of public hearing so that folks folks have already voted, but give folks an opportunity to come and speak at a special comment section about which of those names they might prefer and why, and share stories or perspectives, so that we're really taking sort of community voices into consideration before we as a board decide whether to choose one of those two names or not, or to choose any other name we might like. But yeah, those two were the Carroll F. Small and Greeley Primary, the ones we wanted to sort of forward to the board, and recommend that we first have a public hearing to hear from folks in the community before we consider it.
Did you have a date in mind?
I did not have a date in mind. The next board meeting, enough time to let the community know and to put notice out there so that folks can make sure they attend. And I believe Jeff said there's not a super rush, but we want to get the name locked down before March at the latest. So maybe 2 board meetings hence.
Yeah. I think maybe February 5th might be a good one.
Yeah, enough time that we want to make sure the community knows
like
so that
one.
folks can come out. And then, so we have a first read policy. So this is policy KE, public concerns and complaints. This was last revised in 2017, so we took a fresh look and we decided to start with the MSMA sample policy, which there was an updated one. So we basically used that and made tweaks to the MSMA sample policy. So I believe the MSMA sample policy is what's in black. There's some things that we've struck out.
Moving away.
And there's also some additions. So you'll notice we added a additional introductory sentence, just consistent with board policies and practices that promote open communication with its community stakeholders, to highlight that we want, if folks have concerns and complaints, we would like to hear them. We removed B, the second exception, because we do not have a policy KEB, so that doesn't apply to us. And then these other 2 pieces, so if a concern or complaint section, we just made that district specific, so instructional support. I'm aware that there's an extra comma in front between transportation and director there, so we will fix that. We have superintendent and then school board. One of the changes we made here was to add some language around where things can be not appealed to, but raised to the next level. And so we did add language about concerns specifically about a superintendent, because he, in the sample policy, is sort of where things end. And then if they're not resolved at the superintendent level, then the board chair gets involved. But we also added language that if there's concerns about the superintendent specifically, those can be brought to the board chairperson, and then they could consult with the whole board if necessary. And the gist of this policy is just that public complaints or concerns should be heard at the sort of lowest possible level, and it spells that out, and then they can go up and up and up until they get to the superintendent or to the board chairperson to resolve those. We think it's a little more straightforward than the version we had previously. If anybody has any comments, concerns, questions, we would be happy to take them.
Can I add one little piece of context?
Yes, please.
I didn't do that. This one was a tough one for policy, I think. Not in that it was like contentious, but I think we struggled with finding the right feel for it, because we spent maybe 3 meetings talking about this and going back and drafting, and because we didn't want the public to feel like we weren't open to conversation, or to feel like there was a policy for the public that they couldn't communicate to us, but also we wanted to encourage the public to try other methods at the school level as appropriate, because our hands in most cases are tied. Like, we're not taking action because we hear something's gone on at the school if it hasn't gotten to a certain level, right? But we also didn't we don't want to discourage some of those conversations. So we've been trying to find the right tone where it's a policy for the board members, but as well as informing the public like what to expect and what they should probably do first. What are the necessary steps? But this was a really tough one to get the right tone of we're receptive to hearing to you, but also these are the paths forward that you should take. And so as you read it, we ask that, have that in mind about is this the tone that you want set? Because I think we struggled with it. I think we came to a pretty decent compromise with what that looks like. But if I read it again, I'll probably change my mind. So I'm not looking at it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And perhaps this was discussed, so I'd like to hear the process. How do you determine that a complaint or concern has been resolved? What is the definition of resolved?
I think that would depend on the person bringing the concern or complaint. And so as it's laid out here, the concern or complaint should, if they're about us, they can bring it to public comment. But if it's about a teacher or something specific to the school, they should bring it to the lowest possible level, right? So they should bring it to the principal, say. And in here it does say that if basically the issue isn't resolved, the person that they're dealing with should make them aware who the next person they could appeal to is, right? So if I as a parent have a complaint about something, I would go, to one of the principals, right? I feel like they didn't resolve my issue. According to this policy, it's incumbent upon the principal to say, and if I'm like, I don't feel like this is resolved, they should tell me, well, you can appeal this to, so-and-so, and they should be giving me that contact information, so then I could appeal it up to the next level, director of education, whoever, eventually to Jeff. And if I still am just like, I don't think you're doing anything about this and doesn't feel resolved, then Jeff, according to this policy, should say, well, you can bring it up with the board chairperson, and they and I will get together. So I think that's the idea, is that we want issues to be resolved at the lowest possible level, but that they can go all the way up to the superintendent and then to the board chair if a person doesn't feel that it's resolved.
The onus is on the person who has the complaint,
right,
to determine that it has not been resolved.
Yeah,
which I know sounds kind of logical, but I guess I don't know if maybe it needs to be stated, but that this is from the perspective of the person who filed the complaint, that they are not satisfied,
correct,
with the resolution. So, okay, if that, yeah. It still feels just a tiny bit vague to me, but maybe it needs to be vague.
I think it is. I think it is vague because it's a policy and not a procedure.
Yeah.
But the outline is resolve the issue at the lowest level, and then you bring it up until.
No, I get that. Yeah. It's just by resolved. I guess I'm not sure
there's so
why
many
I'm
types
struggling
of
with that.
concerns and complaints. I think it would be difficult to be specific.
Sure.
And resolution may not actually be, possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess my question, I think, is maybe along a similar vein. There's no formal, appeals process either being outlined, right? It's if you're not feeling that there's a resolution based on the level you're at, go talk to the next person up.
Right.
Okay.
And do we have, I'm so sorry, I don't know why this is just not sitting well with me. Do we have any kind of expectation that lower level, each time the complaint comes, that a record is kept of that?
No, we didn't previously, and we don't in this current policy.
Could that be discussed?
Yeah, we can take it up.
Jeff, what is your thought on that? Is that being too specific, or just in light of
a record? You mean of a complaint?
Yeah.
I will say that the ones that I receive, generally speaking, 90-something% are all in writing, because somebody emails me. Usually, just speaking for myself.
So let's say that someone goes to a principal.
Yeah.
About a concern. They went to the teacher.
Yeah.
now they're gone to the principal. Is the principal required to take notes to?
There's no requirement. I will tell you, most administrators will take a note of the complaint. They'll keep their own note of the complaint, and then just to refresh themselves, and then they will advise the person if this sounds like, well, this is actually a Title IX issue, or it's something else that's policy. Then they'll advise them on what their next step would be, and to get in touch with the Title IX coordinator, things like that. But if it's a more informal complaint and it doesn't fall into those other areas, then our administrators generally do take notes. I mean, we train our administrators take notes so that you can refer back to those notes if you need to, and say there was a complaint that was, most people will start with an email. They'll be invited in for a meeting. If it can't be resolved through the email or a phone call, then there's a meeting. That's usually how we handle it. I know I handle it that way. I know our administrators handle it that way. And if the meeting, I know myself, I'll take a note after the meeting, make sure that I am refreshing myself on what that was, and I know our administrators do that too. That's just the way we operate. Yeah.
Is there, looking at the policy on the school board website, there's a very distinct wording change here. Is there I know there was a sample policy used. Was the other, you weren't there then, but was that other policy based on another sample, or do we feel in general policies are shifting away from a paragraph format into more of a bulleted style?
I believe that's the case.
Okay, because I feel like the other one kind of tells a narrative, has a tone. This seems very rigid and formal and doesn't give that, this is the process. It's just more like, don't do this. Yeah. That's the kind of the feel I get out of this. So
Yeah. I mean, and that, like Tim said, I think we talked a lot about how to write the policy, and whether we just sort of keep it to sort of like the facts of like how, like what you do and why and what the exemptions and whatever, to like versus a more conversational sort of paragraph style. But I think most of the MSMA policies are sort of, sample policies are sort of more just like, because they're policies, right? They're not communication documents. And so that was one of the conversations we had, was like, do we want this to be a communication piece, or do we want somebody, if they're ever looking at the policy, to just know sort of like, and we went with the bulleted one, but we did talk it through, and we can take another look and see if there are other ways to soften it. But yeah, because it's a policy and not sort of a piece of communication to the community, I think that's why we came down with a more streamlined version was appropriate.
And this is softer than the MSMA, but like, I'll be honest, so I didn't like the tone of our original. I thought it was too directed and towards the community, as like almost slaps on the risks for reaching out to us. And then I'll be honest, like I wrote one, and we looked at my policy of like, this is like Tim's, and it was like almost the opposite end of that, which was super friendly and like more on us, and be like, sure, you could reach out to us, but like just know that we can't. It was a little bit too warm, and so we were trying to be like, let's take all that emotion out of it and try to do something that's just, to your point, like just kind of like the facts and process. But I think there is room, and we added a little bit of warmth to it. I think there might be more room to make sure that it aligns with our other policies. And to Kim's point, maybe more room to kind of be more clear about that. Here's the process of this, what escalation step ups actually looks like, because maybe it's missing that just a teeny bit, because you got it doesn't read exactly like our other policies. I will say that it's a little bit thinner.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I was feeling like this is a little bit too straightforward, and I'm really uncomfortable with any policy discouraging residents from coming to speak to us about concerns, even knowing that we can't always do something about it, but having the residents feel that they can come and speak to us, and then we give them this process of who to speak to. I would prefer the tone to be a little bit warmer.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
Agreed that
it's important that we have parameters and recognize that resolution is different for all parties.
Like, should it reference like the public comment policy? Does it directly?
I feel like this policy is more about a complaint procedure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it bars the public from talking to you about their, I mean, I feel like concerns is the wrong word to have in here. Like, this is really about complaints.
Yeah.
Like something that needs to be fixed, not about your general concerns or comments about things that you have observed or worried about. That doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't feel appropriate that that's barred here.
Yeah, I think when we looked at this policy, it's exactly that. If you have a specific issue, right? Like, my kid got beat up on the playground, and I would like to know how we're going to keep my kid from getting beat up on the playground, right? Like, bring that to the school board. It's like, oh, is there a safety an issue? But like, I can't solve it, right? Like, you should go to the principal or the teacher first, probably, and they'll talk to the principal and so on, right? So I think this is less about general. I mean, so maybe we need to remove the word concerns and just specific complaints. But yeah, I don't think there's anything here that says you can't talk to us about general things if you don't want to. But yeah, we can look at language to see if we can clarify.
I sort of agree. I think I don't read this as being not warm enough. If I had a question about what to do, I would go to policies and be like, what do I do? Oh, thank you for the clear information. It may be helpful to provide a hierarchy of who to go to first, because I don't know, I may not know who the person is.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that came up for me, Megan, when I was reading it. Was kind of lowest level.
Like, what does that mean?
Can we provide a little more information? I saw that there was some language that was taken out, and not saying that that is exactly the right language to consider putting back in, but I had wondered if a little more definition around that could be helpful.
Great. Anything else, Jesse? Great, thank you. Tim, facilities.
Okay, well, we had a holiday present, and we postponed Friday's meeting to allow everyone to get out on break a little bit earlier for January 9th. So I don't think we'd miss much anyway in terms of actual workday. I do want to note that I've walked around the schools. I've been in touch with Scott and with Peter Bingham, and I feel like the schools really could use a little bit of a break itself, and facilities. I know facilities is going to work, I think, pretty hard at some point to, I don't know, clean up after all the dirt and sand that we've had. I think the schools are I think it's amazing where they're at, given how much traffic we get from activities, from sports, I mean, there's not even enough time sometimes to clean the gym in between activities. And so it's amazing they look as good as they do. And I know that I'm sure that facilities is going to do some projects over the break, because almost those things are always like happening.
They always do.
And so I'm grateful for them to do that and all the work that they do regularly just to keep it in the space that it is. So that's another just reminder to, if you can, bring other shoes if you're going to get on the gym or gym floor, and also like beware of ice. There's a lot of black ice around. I've seen some people slip. So we're going to address some of those kind of projects in our next meeting, as well as some bigger things like HVAC, and then I think we have the revolving renovation fund stuff. January 30th, right, is when we hear back on some of that stuff. So that's gonna impact like the rest of our year. But so we've got a little time for that. But other than that, our next meeting is the 9th.
Great, thanks, Tim. Annika, curriculum.
Okay. So we last met on December 9th, and the committee at that time decided to extend the strategic plan survey, which now closes tomorrow. And after a push this week, we are up to 709 responses, which I think feels like that is more in the range of where we want to be. You know, would love to see some more come through in the next 24 hours, but
you looked at me. I feel like
we didn't see yours in there, Tim.
That was not intentional. Not intentional. And so far, we've had 52 people express directly interest in focus groups. The next, let's see, well, in our meeting on the 9th, in addition to deciding to extend the survey, we did start to look at what results we had received so far and started to look at what some of those trends looked like, started to develop some of the questions that we might have to explore with focus groups. Once we get those going, kind of late winter probably. But we will be talking more about that at our next meeting on January 6th. So we'll be having closed the survey at that point. We'll go over the final results. We'll look at what our focus group composition and questions will look like, and also do a little training with committee members around facilitation in preparation for running those groups.
Great.
Those are the highlights.
It's exciting. Thank you. Equity, Kim.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Great. Megan.
Communications, well, once we move beyond the naming of the school, and communications is sort of giving up the reins now to policy and to the board, the communications committee is brainstorming on what to do next. And one idea that we landed on was building a sort of good news showcase across all the schools, highlighting what's going on in the schools at a really granular level. So in so-and-so's class, they're doing X, or these 4 students got together and worked on this project. Because those really granular bits of information are hard to get out. I know, Jeff, you're great about it, but we'd like to broaden that channel and just amplify all the good news and all the interesting things that happen in the schools. So we have recruited help from the schools and met with middle school teachers from 4, 5, and middle school to help out, and we're waiting on a high school person to commit. But that's the next big push.
Great. Thanks, Megan. And congrats on getting the school naming to the next level. So it's very exciting. Ad hoc committee reports. Any?
I have one. Okay. Safety and security.
Great.
We met this week, and we're moving forward with the Stop the Bleed kits. Mm-hmm. They're it's coming together. They're considerably more expensive than originally anticipated for great reasons. So we're working on getting funding. So if anybody wants to chip in a few grand, we'll take it.
Great. Thanks, Megan.
No problem.
No problem.
This isn't necessarily ad hoc, but I recommend everyone on if you have a couple hours to watch the joint meeting from North Yarmouth Select Board and the Town Council that occurred this week. There was a lot of discussions that might impact us, so it's good to have that context. Eventually we'll get informed by that by both teams or both communities, I'm sure, at our next meeting. But I think if you watch it, there's a lot of context there. So just recommend that.
Yeah, I think the school funding formula was talked about, and they also talked about shared services.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Great. Looking forward to next steps. And yeah, we also need to reconvene around the projection study. I know that Cumberland was particularly interested in, given that they have their own planner, of like being able to sit down and think about what a longer term projection study might look like. I mean, obviously we need a baseline. That's some of what we talked about, but part of having that is then how to then get that updated on an ongoing basis. So I don't have any particular update, probably after the new year. Something to bring back, because we do have our next joint meeting. It's going to be here before we know it in February. So we'll want to get some groundwork laid before that. Any other ad hoc committee So the other thing I just wanted to provide an update on, or as a reminder, we have scheduled the pre-K workshop for January 15th at 6 p.m. It will be sort of in place of our regular business meeting, if we need to like add things that we have to be done at that time, we can probably add them at the end, but I think the majority of the time will be spent on the workshop. A notice went out in the district newsletter last week. I also directly reached out to our providers in the community around inviting them directly to come and participate, and what we'd hope to learn from them as part of this process. But I know it's also an opportunity for the board to start getting information not only about the new legal requirements, but some more of what other districts are doing, what some of the opportunities are for our district to consider. So it will be a combination of us learning from what the working group has been doing, the results of the survey they put out, information from the state about what those requirements are. I think we're also hoping to get funding information from the state about what the dollars associated with the pre-K expansion could look like, especially with all the different models that are under consideration. And so, yes, I encourage the board members to come up with questions that they're hoping would be answered through that workshop, just to ensure that we can be as prepared as possible. We have such great internal expertise already in the district, and we're going to couple that with our providers and community members and maybe some representatives from the state. So looking forward to that.
And Leanne, can you remind us what public comment looks like during a workshop board meeting?
I think it's kind of, we can sort of decide. We have a little more, I mean, we always have a certain level of flexibility, but I'm hoping that it's actually a little more of a conversation to a certain extent.
So dialogue might be possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's within policy to do that.
Yeah.
The policy is the same as anything, and we don't say anything about dialogue in the policy, so it's really kind of up to chair rules at that point.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I've asked, like, providers too, because I appreciate the perspectives of a variety of community members and representation. So obviously we'll need to have it structured to a certain extent, but I think we can find good ways to do that. But at least start with questions that we know we're hoping to get answered during that time. All right.
I'm curious, with environment, are we looking at like roundtable discussions? Are we looking at the board being?
I don't want to sit like this.
I mean,
I think this is very natural.
I don't know about you, but I would prefer, I mean, I would ask, you know, when we had the tables for, when we had the administrative team, leadership team, we had.
That was nice.
Break into groups?
Well, I would maybe like an opportunity during the conversation to maybe have groups. But we're still, I think, working to formalize what that format would be, but I would like it to be definitely more casual than this. And I appreciated the opportunity to maybe have groups, but I think I just will think through a little bit more of the format. I think it will be a combination of presentation and conversation. Great. And I've had a couple providers confirm back that they do plan on coming and participating, and I'm really grateful. And I'll be following up with those I haven't heard from just to see. Awesome. Okay. Anything else? All right. So I would like to move. Okay, sorry, I don't have my blue notes. It's the regular agenda. Thank you.
Good job.
Can I have a motion to enter executive session to conduct the evaluation of the superintendent of schools and discuss superintendent's goals pursuant of state statute 1 MRSA 405-6A?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan. All in favor? Great, it's unanimous. I would also like to say maybe let's take like about a 5-minute break and then we can use this room once everyone gets a chance to get cleaned up. So we're done. You're done for the night, I guess. We're not done. Thank you.